252.
Hey, welcome to another episode of 252. Frank G here along with
Johnny Blaze.
Cool Water Kirk.
Ralphie D.
And today we're going to be talking Robocop. Who wants to kick off the Robocop goodness?
You know what? I'm going to start this one off. I remember first time I went to see Robocop, 1987. Went to the drive-in theater in Chicago. I saw it at the drive-in. Yeah. Rated R movie.
In Chi-Town? So
Chi-Town.
that was your mom, she was big with drive-ins.
Well, she was, but...
Mom was not there.
Mom was not there. Ray Harper took me.
Oh.
This was one of the...
You know what? It was rated R, wasn't it? It
That
does
was a
make
good
sense.
summer. Robocop and LL Cool J. Come on, dude.
Yeah, man. So I didn't know what I was watching, but I knew that I freaking loved it.
I'm going to say, I'm just going to piggyback one off of the excitement of RoboCop.
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing that I want to say is not only was RoboCop huge in my neighborhood, that came out, and at that time, you know, for us, we were like all nerdy. You know, we were same guys we are
We were?
today.
No.
you know, but there was a street performer who ended up making it to a little bit of minor fame. And he called himself RoboCop because
That's right.
he walked around and he did and he would make the noises with his mouth, stop, you know, and he was pretty good.
He was pretty good. I think it was on Showtime at the Apollo or something.
Something like that.
I
Yeah,
think that's where he broke.
And then he got kind of a little minor celebrity after that. But
That was a local dude, right?
yeah.
Okay, I saw you've seen it on TV, but I remember that guy at the mall. Okay.
I think he was San Francisco. I think he was working Pier 39.
Maybe it was the mall over there.
And it was one of those things where it's hella good. And then we saw him on, I want to say Showtime. I think it was Showtime, but I don't know.
Something like that.
But then he kind of got he was the one trick pony. He did RoboCop.
That's what he did.
But I remember that thing. But we had this whole thing with RoboCop, and I wasn't even that big of a fan of Peter Weller.
Yeah,
Peter Weller.
I was.
But yes, because you was a big Buckaroo Banzai fan.
How can you like that movie? It's a great movie. Great movie, John.
Wait, before we go crazy, let's just stay. I know you were a big Peter Weller fan.
Yes.
Yeah. And the beginning part of that, because even though it took place in a lightweight dystopian future, because it showed the decline of Detroit.
It was not lightweight.
It was because Detroit was all down, and even though it was in the United States,
Detroit wasn't even that bad yet.
It looked like a third world country.
Yeah.
In real life, it was worse then than it is now. Of course, they shot it in Dallas and Houston and stuff, so they didn't actually have to come here.
You know what? I love the movie, but RoboCop is not my favorite character.
Who was your
My favorite character was Ed 209.
Because he looked like a Robotech guy?
Oh, it was bad.
Was Ed 209 defeated by a flight of steps?
No. Hey, when they got to the end where they
Not
fought
climb a
each
flight of
other,
steps, Gus.
I was rooting for Ed 209.
Get him, man! Get him!
He made a comeback in Robocop 3, but then he was like wussified, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm jumping around a little bit.
Clarence Boddicker was my favorite character.
Bitches leave.
Yes.
That was.
I'm telling you, there's a great edit you can do by taking Robocop footage in that 70s show and splicing things together.
I was about to say that character right there was the closest to Red Foreman. Like honestly, it was like I think he just said, "I'm doing the guy from RoboCop."
I don't know what.
And my theory is that at the end of that 70s show, the kids were gone, and then they were stuck with his wife. Not stuck with. They were living together and getting old, and then she died. So he said, "Fuck this," and moved to Detroit and started doing criminal shit.
Yeah, started snorting cocaine.
Red Foreman is Clarence Boddicker with a new name 10 years later.
Well, didn't he played kind of a bad guy in Logan's Run. He was one of the Sandmen.
Yeah, but I think I really think that. Oh God, what I just forgot his name. Kurt Longwood.
Kurtwood Smith.
Kurtwood Smith. That was off. I was way off.
You had the porn version.
I felt I got long way. I felt like his performance in there was probably the best performance in the RoboCop movie. You know
what? I'd buy that for $1. That guy was dope.
I'd buy that for $1.
RoboCop had a lot of great, subtle, quick moments.
Yeah.
Like when they're about to get into it in the bathroom, the guy just like zips up and
Oh, yeah.
pisses all over himself and gets the hell out of there. That was
The
genius.
first one. The
It
first
might
one
be.
was satire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I didn't
very
know it was satire when I was a kid. So
Paul Verhoeven style, like
Yeah.
you know, so over our heads with the clever bits that we didn't get them until we were adults. You know?
Exactly.
Like, oh,
And
I
I would have to say,
that.
you know what's so funny? Because when I saw Starship Trooper, I immediately got it. When they were like, you want to learn more? Click this. You know, I got it then because I was older. So looking back at RoboCop, it was almost like, because as a kid, I just remember there was a guy smoking and RoboCop just let him have it. Shot all around him and got him all, thank you for not smoking. You know? And what did he say? Kids, like, stay in school or stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble.
Kids.
You have
stay out
anything
of
to tell the children? Is this stay out of trouble?
And like when he was walking and then they would follow him and he'd turn around. Kids.
so good. He
Well, plus that movie had some of the, especially as kids, there was some of the most outlandish gore bits in there for a non-horror movie that we'd ever come across. You know,
Yeah.
toxic waste foo. You know,
Oh,
dude's like,
that was so good.
like they get hit by the car.
Just exploded when the car hit him. That was classic.
When I first
A lot
saw
of great moments.
Wasn't that guy played the pig thing and like swamp thing, right? He always
played some ill character.
gets a massive change to his look. Oh, but yeah,
Disgusting.
oh man, he was a character actor. He was in so many movies. I wish I had his name right now.
Yeah, who cares? Karen Allen. Was that Karen Allen?
No, it was Nancy Allen.
Nancy Allen, thank you. Her sister.
Karen Allen's
Nancy.
sister? No.
Yeah, she was good. She played his, second in command to RoboCop, and I think she fell in love. I think
She played Murphy.
she played Murphy.
I mean Murphy.
She played Lewis.
Lewis. Yes, Lewis.
Murphy and Lewis.
Murphy.
She played Murphy, man.
I think that we were this close to having our first brush with robot human sex. We were this
Really
close.
think so?
I think so.
Well, because I remember slightly in, I want to say it was RoboCop 3, where she spoiler alert, she dies. And, and then there was RoboCop was actually played by a different guy. So let's go with,
Right,
because
yeah.
Peter Weller played RoboCop in RoboCop 1 and 2. And then in RoboCop 3, it was...
Did he walk off set?
It was on RoboCop 3. It was the guy from God. I remember he played the cousin on Rescue Me. He played Dennis Leary's cousin on Rescue Me. The father, the priest guy. He also was.
Oh wow! See, I didn't know he was ever anywhere else.
Gossip
He wasn't.
Girl.
He wasn't very good at RoboCop.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also was in. Oh man, he always plays like a bad guy type business bad guy. A lot of what's his name? Oh man, Robert. Something I can't.
Downey Jr. Low
No.
shot.
Robert Burke. Is that
Kraft.
fake one?
Robert Burke, I think that's his name. And yeah, he's actually a really good character actor. Plays, a lot of tough guy roles,
Yeah.
but then he does have a lot of range as an actor. However, this movie here,
You didn't have to have range.
it was
Well,
not.
it's like it's like fake or new Chewbacca. It's very close, but
Yeah.
you can't exactly get the mannerisms correct because it was created by one person's stride, the way they moved.
Yeah. So it's different.
You can tell.
You can tell it's a different.
Now, have you seen the new, slightly ridiculous KFC commercials featuring Colonel RoboCop?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
It very much seems to be Peter Weller back in the suit.
It does.
think it
It
is.
does. I think it is.
I think it is.
Because it looks like him. Like
Yeah.
as
And it
much
sounds
as
like
you
him.
can.
It looks and
It's-
sounds like him.
And I think it is because KFC
So
has
we
been
may
dropping.
be getting a new RoboCop continuate, like the way they did Halloween, a real RoboCop 2 that picks up after 1 with him back in the suit.
I would love that. If
Well,
they do that.
here's the thing. They did reboot RoboCop, and I know Ralph, you didn't even see it, right? You thought
No,
it
I
was-
saw it.
Okay,
I saw it.
you saw it too.
It's garbage.
I like Joel Kinnaman as an actor.
What?
I like Joel Kinnaman as an actor. There are a couple of roles that he plays that is really good.
What? Name them.
Okay, Altered Carbon.
Okay.
He played
the
lead.
in Altered Carbon.
There was one season of House of Cards where he played the up-and-coming presidential candidate, a Republican dude, and he did a really fine job in that.
I'm sure he did.
Now, and I'm gonna go ahead and go to bat for RoboCop 3. He played reboot of RoboCop. He played a good RoboCop. I just think everything else about the movie was a miss.
Samuel L. Jackson couldn't save that movie. Remember he was in it?
No, he was.
Samuel L. Jackson.
I just remember being like, why is his hand human? Why? Like, you couldn't save the arm, but the hand is good.
Yeah.
Attach that to the little thing, and you got your face and your hand.
I kind of liked how...
That was some Steve Austin bullshit.
What's the name of my new book?
It was weird.
Yeah.
I did like how in that RoboCop reboot, where they did have his head and his spine, and I guess...
Well, didn't it have like his heart, lungs, and his spine?
Yeah, a lot of
they had like his innards.
Well, that was kind of borrowing from RoboCop 2, because that's sort of what they did when they turned the bad guy into the second RoboCop.
Right.
Oh,
Which was weird about that, because that guy, what was he? Remember, he was like a cult leader and a drug dealer / cult leader.
Yeah, but...
So he'll make a great cop.
Yeah.
Who else knows?
Which kind of leads to where we are today, right?
Yeah, exactamundo.
But they weren't that far off with their predictions of 30 years in the future. And the first one was supposed to be 1997, but later on they were into the 2000s.
Right.
You know, we're how many years out from what used to be the future in movies? It's kind of weird.
I think we've passed back
In
to
the
the
distant year of 1999. Like, what?
Remember in Demolition Man? It came out in 93 and it was like 97?
Yeah.
Like, what?
That movie had no future proofing at all.
Then they did jump further into the future, but...
They were like, we're jumping, but we're not jumping
just
that far.
start at 94 and then go from 94 to here?
No,
just saw
6 minute house.
The arcade machine for Outrun 2019, which was a 1989 game, set in the future. I'm like, Outrun 2019. Well, shit, we still don't have the flying space cars. I protest.
Well, you got 1980, or was it 85? Big Brother's not here yet.
Oh, yeah, 1985.
Yeah, 1985.
Well, is it?
Yeah, Big Brother's all around.
This conversation brought to you by Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you better believe there's someone in some cubicle watching this.
Well, it's bots. Everything goes through bots. If we were starting to talk, seditious.
Hey! Let's not even say the example.
What are the keywords?
What are the say certain trigger words like blah 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 and blah, they might flag our shit.
Yeah.
Cuts to the color bars on our show, and we're off the air
We
now.
have to redact our own show.
Well, we've done that before. We've redacted our own show. But before we get too far off track, do any of you guys remember the RoboCop cartoon?
No.
Because this violent rated R movie was also a Saturday morning cartoon.
I don't remember.
And a comic series. So I mean, a toy series.
Yes.
And that's what led to RoboCop 3 being PG-13 and full of kids.
Totally terrible. And that was weird when Rambo had a cartoon. Same kind of...
I remember
Rambo
cartoon.
And the Force of Freedom.
Yeah.
It's like, this is rated R. Kids shouldn't even know about this. And
But it was the 80s.
That was a terrible cartoon too.
That was
I tried to
awful.
watch it.
It was you got to have at least good animation.
RoboCops was okay. It was on that Marvel Action Universe thing for a while.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And it had all your favorites, and even the voice. I mean, I wish I had the information because I'm gonna say Peter Weller was the voice of RoboCop. I'm just throwing
You
it out
can't
there.
have RoboCop without Peter. Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah, you
It
can.
was done by the same team that was doing G.I. Joe, Transformers, and that Marvel Studios team. So it was decent. But it was very much, it could have been an episode of G.I. Joe. RoboCop, I'm surprised RoboCop didn't become part of the G.I. Joe team.
Yeah.
That
Well, it's possible. Or it actually would have been better if he was.
They had Refrigerator Perry. They could have had RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop as a Transformer. Did you have any RoboCop toys?
Not till
Because
way
they had a
later.
toy line, right?
Yes, they did have a toy line. We just discussed they definitely had a toy line. I can't remember how many toys they had. I would say they had Robocop. They probably had that one guy you were talking about, Ed 209. Ed 209. They probably had.
It had a big Ed 209 that was
And I
like
remember
scaled to the Robocop.
there was a dog. I remember a dog.
A dog.
Yeah, maybe
Robo-dog?
like Robo Canine or something like I don't know.
That's Doctor Who, man. That's not
K9.
Robocop.
K9, the Robo Dog. Get it? K9.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying.
They're British. How much do you want them to not be on the nose? Come on.
Very true. Yeah. But Paul Verhoeven, he really went wild with, like you were saying earlier, Frank, with all the gore and the violence. It was, as some would say, ultra violent.
I think the kill
And
count
all
in
the drug use.
RoboCop far outweighs John Wick.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was intended to be over the top,
Right.
And you know, but people didn't get it. They're just like, "Wow, it's over the top," not realizing it was supposed to be that way.
Right.
You know.
I
And it was much later, now that RoboCop is part of the Criterion collection and things like that, that people started to realize what he was trying to say there.
Right.
But going to let's say about the mythos of RoboCop, because not only was RoboCop fighting street thugs and street dealers, remember there was the ominous big bad
OCP.
Omni computer products,
OCP.
which had their hands in everything. Disney. You know, it was just like the ultimate bad guy. And they even had a story arc in all three of the RoboCop movies. However, of course, since 3 was such a travesty, they really didn't, because they had that one old guy. Because I remember in the first one, they had Ronnie Cox was the bad guy.
Ronnie Cox, always a good
Ronnie
bad
Cox
guy.
is a good bad guy. See you at the party, Richter. I mean, Ronnie Cox is a good
Yeah,
bad
but
guy.
then he teams up with Axel Foley to be a good guy. You're like,
Yeah,
what's up with
that's
this?
right, yeah.
I know, and they shot his ass.
That's what you get for them other films.
That's what you get.
Dick, you're fired.
Even this one, what was I watching where he played the dad? Ronnie Cox was the dad, but he was
Don't
like
trust
an
him.
old drunk, and this kid was like, "Man, oh, you was a drunk, and now I'm a drunk because you was a drunk." And he was like, "Hey, man, I'm better now." And he was in the room, and the granddaughter called him, "Oh, that's his grandpa's soul." It was like a little drama thing. He did a really good turn. I'm just like to say, Ronnie Cox out there still working. He did good.
Rest
And I
in
think
peace.
RoboCop shot him out the window. So not only did he get shot, but he went out the window and plummeted 20 stories to his death.
Yeah, and I always hated that scene, the mechanics of it. Remember the big long arms while he's falling out the window?
Yeah.
That was always weird. So
Yeah,
weird.
because it was like,
Sometimes when they throw the dummy out the window, the arms detach, but they're holding on by the sleeves, and that's why they've got the weird close encounter arms.
we love it.
It's like, couldn't you do another take?
No.
Curl those arms a little better.
This is it. Hey, this is the last shot of the movie.
It's satire. And the black guy lived, well, one of the black guys.
Yeah. Oh, the one that worked at Omni Computer Products?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always
Oh,
like that logo.
But you know
Felton
what?
Perry, the background black guy in every 80s movie.
Yes.
I was actually going to
Like,
wear
you
my
look like you
OCP
could
shirt.
be corporate. Get in this movie.
I would have to say what tragedy did strike, the guy who played the jackass, he actually died in real life, like right after that movie.
Which guy?
The guy, he was the young upstart in OCP who was trying to get the job. from the older guy.
yeah.
Oh, it was a while. Miguel Ferrer. He
Miguel
died
Ferrer died recently.
like 10, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So he lived for a good time after RoboCop, but he is dead now.
Yeah. I always liked him, too. He was good at everything. I've seen it. A fitting tribute.
Yes, yeah. His legacy. Not like Raul Julia. Last movie,
Oh
not
God!
good.
Was his last movie
What was it,
Street Fighter?
Street Fighter.
Well, that's
But-
like RoboCop 2 was the last film directed by Irvin Kershner, the guy who directed Empire Strikes
Empire
Back.
Strikes Back.
Empire, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was sad.
Yeah. Well, hey, at least we have Empire.
At least we do.
Wow, Street Fighter was bad.
And we're back.
I'm sure they should do that now. Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat, and just start doing all these crazy
Have
movies.
a bad off.
RoboCop versus Terminator the film. Yeah. It'll be every bit as good as Aliens versus Predator.
I always wanted to see that. It would, most likely, it would be better than both of those AVP movies that were awful. Ugh.
Yeah, especially if they had Arnold and Peter Weller, that would be a pretty decent film.
Thank you. Yeah.
Two old guys going at it.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Well, not like Lemon Party style, but like Robocop versus Terminator.
Ain't no party like a lemon party.
Well, they're too busy.
Go ahead, kids. Type in lemon party in your search bar.
Please don't hashtag that on
Like
the
the
show.
dirtiest thing 30 Rock ever got across the air.
I know. Ain't no party like lemon party.
Nothing says old dick like a lemon party.
And his name was Dick on the show.
Yeah, that's why they got away with it.
That's why they got away with it. People were like, "Wait, what
You
did he
like
say?"
to think that like Donald Glover probably worked that thing out by thinking that up in advance and titling that character that to begin with. You know.
I bet he did.
And that's why he's Lando Calrissian.
Yeah. Next week's episode, 30 Rock.
The best line in Solo is when he met Lando Calrissian, and he said, "Everything you ever heard about me is true."
Who are you? Yeah. You know what? I like that movie. I don't like it as a Star Wars movie, but I like it as a movie.
Oh, we're still on that?
I segued to Solo. I'm sorry.
I thought when he met up with Lando, that's when the movie got really good. I enjoyed the rest of it.
The first half of that movie was...
First part of that movie was just
Yeah.
bad.
It's a good Star Wars
But
movie.
I also read the stuff that led up to it, so I was already familiar with most of those characters. So I was like, oh, that's what they look like in real life. Well, except for Han Solo. It's like, oh, okay.
I just said that the way it was shot, like watching it with brand new eyes, it was just cut so fast. Like everything was just happening. So they never let a scene give it time to mature.
Yeah.
And it was dark.
So, versus,
Well, it could have been longer.
It's like
but
versus
then
a
people
Street
would have
Urchin.
complained that it was too long.
It was like
Wait
first,
for the complaints when Avengers is 3 hours.
Yeah, I heard that too. It almost made me not want to go see it.
It's like, the Solo. Yeah. Solo's like, first he's a street urchin. Now he's in the Empire. He was a pilot, but no, now he's not a pilot. Now he's infantry. Now he meets Chewbacca. Now it's like, what the hell is going
They time
on?
compressed the first.
Yeah.
You know, there was a
wow.
time jump in there too when he was in the army.
When he was in the army.
Yeah.
And he got his name in a dumb way. I said it.
I think that had a lot to do with them not wanting to get Phantom Menace again. Like they started too early with Anakin and fucked everything
Right.
up. So like here's all Solo shit in like 30 minutes, and it gets you up to where he was like 25. Yeah,
It's like the history of Han Solo in 10 words or less.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it was.
Well, let's. All right. Okay.
But
It should
I
have
liked
been
the
3
movie. I thought
movies,
it was
but then people would have lost
entertaining.
their
I just
minds.
didn't like the first part. I wouldn't even call that the first half of the movie because it flies so fast. It's like the first quarter of the
You know
movie.
what? That's probably the part of the movie that the guys that got fired did.
Yeah, I'm sure it
And
is.
since
Some of it is. There's little bits of their stuff weaved in, but you know, their original thing had the big bad guy had a tiger head, you know, and it was a cat dude and all this stuff. So it's like, okay, well, they went off the wall wacky with it, and then they scaled it back.
and since Opie Cunningham's brother was in the second half, I think that's what he did. The second half when it got good.
I don't know.
But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. I got it on disc. I watch it now and then.
Real
I think
quick.
they you know, it was sad that it didn't do well because people were still mad about the previous film because now we're probably not getting whatever they were planning next, which was apparently Kenobi or Boba Fett.
Which I wouldn't.
I don't think Boba Fett needs a movie though.
Agreed.
I feel like The Mandalorian is making up for Boba Fett.
That's true.
Personally.
I feel like
Now,
he has a-
I don't know if Boba Fett's going to be in The Mandalorian, but so far the cast that they've released, I was like, hey, this is going to be
They
a
haven't
pretty...
said anything, but it would be interesting if you know, if they wanted to do a Boba Fett tie-in, make the dude find his armor after it gets spit out into the desert, you know, empty because all the guts have been digested. You know, what's
Yeah.
this stuff? Oh,
let
guy
me-
puts it on.
Let me ask you this, Frank, if you agree with this. What made the Mandalorians kind of not quite, but almost a household name, that would be Knights of the Old Republic. Because I know he was
Probably.
in books, but a lot of people didn't read the books.
Correct.
And a lot of people play that video game. And it just seems, I remember Mandalorians getting supercharged after that game came out. And it was
Game
so,
and also the Clone Wars series.
yeah. That's what
I would have
really...
to say the Clone Wars series, and then going further with Rebels, because they still kept the Mandalorians last. Because one of the Rebels, on the cartoon, was a Mandalorian
with graffiti on their armor.
Yeah, and they kept and they kind of let their whole world know. I know we're like way off subject now, but
if you're just tuning
Robocop versus Mandalorian,
this is the Mandalorian episode.
I think it's the way depending on, and from what we have already been told, you got John Favreau and Patty Jenkins and other people who are part of this, or not Patty, Catherine
Bigelow. No, not Bigelow.
I don't know. I'm sorry. There's other people that are part of this. And I wasn't prepared to talk about this right now, so I don't have all the facts. But I do know they have enough, and they got the money behind
Facts don't run this show.
I think they got the money behind it. that it's going to be a really good thing, and I think it would be a good opportunity to even take back the actor who played Jango Fett in the prequels. Now that he's an older man. Because you saw him in Aquaman.
But he's supposed to be clone. How is he supposed to get older?
Because Boba Fett he said, I wanted one clone.
You want him to be Boba Fett because he's the one that actually...
Because there was one clone that he goes, I don't want him to go through the process. I want him to be, but he's still going to grow up to look like his dad because
he's the exact copy of him.
They should bring back the original voice of Boba Fett, which was like that old guy that was the bartender on Archie Bunker's place after All in the Family ended.
That's right.
He'd be a great villain.
No.
His first 3 movies, he was barely in it. I was reading about, just some trivial facts about Boba Fett. They did not have, even though they put in the credits an actor's name, there was no actor who played Boba Fett. They would pull any extra stuntman who fit the uniform because he barely had any scenes. And he
didn't have hardly any. He only had a couple of lines in Empire. He wasn't in Star Wars at all until they edited him in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And a cameo where it's like, here, we're going to put Boba Fett in here. Ready? Are you going to see this? Watch this. Here's Boba Fett. Now he's out.
Yeah, he's just...
And then he got immediately fucking killed in the 3rd one. So Boba Fett was not all that intimidating. Boba Fett was popular because of his action figure.
And he had that dope...
Boba Fett was not killed in the Sarlacc. He climbed out of the Sarlacc pit.
If you listen to George
Lucas... removed
Lucas...
from canon. He died in the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, if you listen to George Lucas, he'll tell you, I killed him, I hate that character.
And George Lucas is no longer a part of Star Wars.
But he wrote it, he brought it...
Are we doing the Marvel and DC here? Kill a cool character and bring him back?
He's back!
Listen.
He's not back. That's not in the current canon.
I bet you $10,000 he's back in the current canon.
They could bring him back, but he's not. He's alive in the comic series that takes place between New Hope and Empire.
He's going to be in The Mandalorian. He's going to be old Boba Fett.
Well, he could be, but we don't even know when that's set. So, if he does, that'd be cool. But then they're just going to be taking the old story back where he crawled out, and that's why I say the newest story that was already in the new canon books was that someone found his armor acid stained in the desert.
Right, I heard that.
So he could be alive, but he's going to be burnt to shit.
I don't even know why we're talking about Boba Fett. At some point, he was a dope character.
Because we're combining the two into Robocop.
Everybody knows that Vader is the best character in the Star Wars universe. Hands down.
The greatest voice over job done ever, James Earl Jones. He's always going to be Vader.
Oh, yeah.
But just Vader as a character, best ever.
Yeah, they've gotten some people that have gotten close to the right voice, but they'll never match that 100%.
No, he was fantastic. He really made
We need him to say the alphabet like Jack Donaghy, so they've got him in the future for future Vader.
They probably do have a good bank of Vader dialogue out of him that used and unused. So
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
If you ever get a chance to watch DVD extras or something on Star Wars and you actually hear David Prowse, And the difference between
Oh,
him doing the lines and James Earl Jones,
Oh my God.
mean, they're not even in the same sport.
No.
I did watch that.
It sounds old and British, right?
I did watch that documentary. I want to believe it's like I Am Your Father or something like that. And it had this one guy, the documentarian, went and followed David Prowse, and they actually did this one part where, because David was all prepared for the final scene where he takes off the mask and all this other stuff, and he says in there while he was getting himself ready, somebody had came to him and was like, "Hey, you need it over here," and he's like, "Well, I'm about to do the scene where it does the
yay!"
And they're like, "No, Sebastian Stan is out there."
Sebastian Shaw.
You're eternally confused from now
Sebastian,
on. Won't even talk about. Don't even bring up Sebastian Bach.
Sebastian Stan is I'm sorry, that's the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, exactly.
Sebastian Shaw was actually
The
on
Black King?
Yeah. He was
Sebastian the Crab from The Little Mermaid.
He was actually on
Calypso.
set. He was on set shooting the scene, and that is how he found out that he was. And it all goes back to
WWE shit.
It all goes back to they said that he was doing an interview on some English program, and he had spoiled the fact that he was actually Luke Skywalker's father.
Well, I don't know about that. I know the thing he
didn't
did
know,
was
though.
they interviewed him after Star Wars, and he said, and he doesn't even remember saying it, but it's in the magazine, in 1977 magazine, he said, "Would it be cool if Luke and Leia were brother and sister?" He actually said that, and it's
Oh, yeah,
and if you ask him, he says, "I have no memory of even doing the interview," and yet there's the magazine article, and in which he says that would be a really cool.
Wouldn't that be a hoot?
Yeah, wouldn't that be a hoot?
George Lucas, you son of a bitch!
You stole my idea.
That's why I'm getting Sebastian Stan to be in the. I'm gonna keep saying it, ladies and gentlemen, until it's so. Make it so.
Like change his name.
Well,
Sebastian Shaw,
Yes,
the Black King.
the Black King, played Darth Vader.
no relation.
No relation.
No relation to Black King.
So apparently we did a.
Now, a character that should feature in the upcoming X-Men film, but apparently will not.
Dude, it looks awful, man. I just can't.
Are we going to now the third subject?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Hey, we gotta call it a day for JB.
Well, here, we can bring it back and let's wrap it up. And I didn't get to leave. We were talking about the Murphy and Lewis romance after he was Robocop.
Murphy's
so my
romance.
final thing here would be, that gives an entirely new meaning to "Dead or Alive, you're coming with me."
Oh my god. All right. Well, I guess we can't get any better than that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Lethal Weapon is my favorite Christmas movie.
Oh man. So for
Back, ladies and gentlemen.
Frank G, Johnny Blaze, and Red, I am Coolwater Kurt saying. I don't have my saying. So why don't we just end this son of a bitch?
Lethal Weapon is your favorite Christmas
Well, all
movie.
you gotta do
Leave
is
it at
just
that.
steal an old lyric from Run DMC. Now Peter Piper picked peppers, but Run Rock rhyme, Humpty Dumpty fell down. Now this our time, Tappy Nibble was nimble, and he was quick with the wugga 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 wugga.
I got nothing. That's it. JB gotta go. So that's it.
All right, well,
Thanks for
all of it.
Me too.
Adonis, pull yourself together.